So we'll just see what it looks like. This is not one of those webinars where we're going to hand you a whole bunch of information. Really, it's like Sharam and Ryan and I want to talk about automation, systemizing processes, how we believe in systemizing over automating, and then touch a little on what apps can do for you. But Ryan, I know you definitely agree. The apps and the automation isn't going to do anything for you if you don't have some systems and processes in place, right?
Yeah, so we were talking a little bit about that before. And by the way, hello everyone, and Kelly, Sharam, thanks for inviting me here today. So yeah, we spoke a little bit about this before everybody joined in. We spoke about the fact that it's possible to overemphasize technology and overemphasize the importance of automation. And I guess the perspective where I'm coming from. So for those of you who may not know, I used to run a cloud-based firm that I started in 2013. I sold it in 2018. And I started a company called Future Firm to help other firm owners create a modern, scalable firm that they love working in. So I often talk about, so Future Firm basically has a podcast, a blog, a newsletter, actionable content to help accountants create a scalable firm. And thank you, Leonard, for the compliments in the chat there. So I've been coaching firms for the last few years on how to create a scalable model. And a lot of firms that come to me, the first thing on their mind, like running a firm is not an easy thing to do. It's actually a very tough business to grow. There's a lot of we have a lot of deadlines in place that need to be managed, tons of tasks across dozens, hundreds, and sometimes even thousands of clients. Overwork is certainly pervasive in the industry, and work-life balance tends to go out the window a lot of times as well when running these kinds of firms. So the first instinct that people have is let's implement more technology, let's implement more automation, and this will just magically make our problems disappear. And when I started Future Firm, I actually started as a technology consultant, helping firms implement more technology, more processes, more automation. And the kind of firms that were coming to me were already what I would consider modern firms. They're already using 30, 40, 50 different apps. They already had good levels of automation in place, yet they still had a lot of the issues that I just described when trying to grow an accounting firm. So I think what I'm trying to get at here, and I'm kind of going off on a tangent, Kelly, so interrupt me at any point. My perspective, and I've shared this on my blog and podcast many times, is that it's possible to put too much emphasis on technology, too much emphasis on automation, and not enough emphasis on other parts of the business model that are required, that you need to standardize in order to actually reap a lot of the rewards from more automation and more technology. So that might be something we dive into a little bit deeper in this discussion. But I think I just wanted to preface that point you raised, Kelly, and your question with that perspective.
Yeah. Yeah. And, you and I have had a few discussions around this, and that's why I thought it would be great for you and I to have a discussion with other people around, is that automation can run amok. Automation can cause you more trouble than manual processes. That the key thing here is having systems and processes in place, testing the absolute daylights out of them, and making sure that they work, and that you then can implement some automation, but that needs to come quite a bit later in the game. And so I think one of the other things that we could agree on here, and Sharam and I have talked about this a lot, not a lot, but some, is what's the absolute outcome that you're looking for? So if you have a task, or you've got a process that sucks, or whatever isn't going well, have you actually defined what the end run is? Have you defined what the outcome is? And then you need to work your way backwards to how you're going to achieve that end run. So for those of you that don't know me, I'm a bookkeeper up here in Canada, but I do spend quite a bit of time in the States too. So hopefully I will be back. I'm starting to come down. My first trip into the States, as Shram knows, is to Nashville in September. I can't get there fast enough. Yep. So that's super fun. Double vaxxer here. And so I need to have because I travel so much and I'm in a number of different places, I really needed to have some of my processes in place. I needed to have some automation. But above all else, I needed to know what outcomes I wanted for my business, what outcomes I want for my client experience when it comes to doing their books, and what the outcome I want for when I'm onboarding clients. So full disclosure, I don't have a big practice anymore. But I do more than my fair share of onboarding because I do file reviews. I do migrations to QBO. So I feel your pain on everybody's pain on onboarding. But one of the things that changed that game was deciding what the outcome I wanted for onboarding, working my processes back. And only then did I automate some of those systems.
So Kelly, what was your outcome for the onboarding process?
Yeah.
What was your outcome?
My number one outcome is that it is a harmonious start to the relationship, so that when I want to start working with the client, I am ready to start working with the client. I did not want to go back to the client after I had committed to doing their bookkeeping and then realized I didn't have the previous trial balance to make sure the books were in order. I didn't know that they were incorporated. I didn't know what their year end was. I wanted to make sure that the day that I committed to the client, I could actually start working with them without going back and pecking at them for all kinds of things.
Okay. So on the topic of picking technology to help smooth out your processes, improve efficiency, improve automation, you start at the end. I think we share the same philosophy there about, that's my approach to everything in business, is basically identifying the outcome and then reverse engineering things. So you figure out the outcome, and then after that, do you shop for software technology right away, or what do you do after that?
Yeah. So I'm going to back up the bus a little bit. I come from a marketing and branding background. I've really only been in the accounting space since, let's say, 2010. And so before that, since the mid 80s, I had a marketing and branding company. And in that marketing and branding company, as my ideal client evolved, or as now I'm calling it the 5-star client evolved, I moved into financial reporting and compliance space. So I was working for insurance companies and bank institutions, mutual fund companies, all that kind of stuff. Well, there's a point to this, I'm getting there, where I was project managing all kinds of things. But the number one thing we did was decide where and when our annual reports needed to be delivered to by. So no matter what, we had to have a final product. I'm going to use annual reports because they were the most complicated one. An annual report at the very outside outcome needed to be delivered to the Vancouver. So the farthest point. We took the hardest outcome to achieve. It had to be in Vancouver by December 5th. And then we took everything else and worked back, because the outcome also included that our compliance issues were met within that annual report. Then we put all of the people that needed to be involved in it and gave deadlines. And just like you said, worked our way back from the hardest, most complicated outcome to the top end and worked our way up from there. And so was that an answer? So I'm just saying that's the same thing. I know, Renette, right? You've seen me in action doing this. You need to, just like you said, reverse engineer. We called them workbacks. I would still love if they were called workbacks, not workflows, because in essence, everything is a workback for us, right? Because we've got a target date with the CRA, or we've got a target date to onboard a client to get their first HST remittance done, whatever the case may be. So back to you, Ryan. I think we're in line on that kind of thing.
So Yeah, I mean, the way that I kind of approach it is, and I'd love to hear Sharam's perspective on this because he's dealing with people shopping for software on a daily basis. And, what I typically see is, people come to me, they're looking for more automation, they want their workflows to be more efficient. So the first thing they think is software. And, let's take practice management software as an example, which is arguably one of the hardest ones to shop for. They ask, which one should I get? And I've tried this one, I've tried that one, I have this feature, I like this feature, I like that feature. So what I basically say is, well, let's start with your kind of like an outcome. Let's start with developing must-have requirements list for your firm and your nice to have requirements. And the piece of software that you select should check off most of the boxes on the must have requirements. And if we get some of the nice to haves, that's a bonus. Mm-hmm. So starting kind of at the end as well, like what do you really want your software to do before you start trying things, before you start, have you developed that list of requirements before you just start shopping around, testing things out? So that's kind of how I look at things. And I'm curious to see like what you see with this, Sharam. Like when people come to you, do they have a clear idea of what they want to get out of their practice management software? Or is this something that you have to further clarify with them? Like, what do you typically see?
Yeah, that's a really good point. And I actually, when I talk to people about it, I've recommended the same thing because there's so many other options out there, right? There's, it's actually distracting how many practice management options you can use to run your firm. So we always typically recommend make a list. Like, what do you need to run your firm? Like, what matters most to you? Because every software or every option out there, they're going to specialize and do something a little bit better. Like that's their competitive edge. And if you can find software that best fits your most important needs, you're going to be set up for the most success. And I actually take that, like every time I'm talking with someone that's interested in our system or we're doing a demo, I always start the demo off with what matters most to your firm. Like what problems are you trying to solve? And if you've already identified that, what type of features are you looking for? Do you need time tracking? Do you need billing? Because we don't offer billing, right? But some practice management tools do. So I always ask that because I want to be really upfront and let them know this is where we succeed. I think we can fill these voids or these problems you're facing, but we're going to fall short here. And there's other options for this or other solutions that better fit your needs. And it's funny. One of the reasons we do that is because I could say, oh, we can kind of do that. But what we see is if you were even to do that, they're not going to be successful in the system. And they're not going to be successful in the system, they're not going to enjoy the system. And it hurts us and it hurts them. So we always really try to get in front of that and really understand what matters most to your firm. Are we the best fit? Or is there another fit out there so they can be set up for success? Because that's what we're trying to do, right? We're trying to help them be better, take their firm to the next level, systemize, automate certain things, but there's never a perfect solution for everyone. Everyone's different.
I have a couple things to go back on. Sharam, you and I have talked about ideal client, which I'm now calling 5-star client because I'm sick of the word ideal. 5-star client, you know what yours is. Ryan, I know you work with people on it. And I think sometimes when people come to me, they're like, no, you kind of said you're going to help me with technology. And I'm like, I can't help you with technology if you don't know who you want to work with. So the outcome, which is always the first thing you need to think about, goes even further back than what's my perfect outcome for onboarding a client. It goes back to who is going to be that 5-star client and what does my 5-star firm look like and what are my 5-star service offerings? You need to figure those out. I mean, I know that's all high pie, hokey pokey stuff, but if you don't have some plan in place to figure some of that out, you can have all the apps in the world, but if you're working with the wrong people, providing the wrong services, no app is going to fix that kind of unhappiness or that lack of work joy. And work is not always joy. You know, work some days is simply going to be work. But if you don't even have what it is that who it is you want to work with, what it is you want to do, there is no app and no amount of automation that's going to fix that. So while you're looking at all the problems you currently have, I think you also need to look at the solution as deeper than just an application, for sure.
Yeah, and I don't think that's hokey pokey at all. I think that's, you know, as I mentioned at the beginning of the discussion, what I help firms do is help create a scalable model. And one part of that model is applying automation and technology. But the other parts of that model, I have a podcast episode on this, the 6-part formula to creating a scalable accounting firm. And technology is one part, but it comes down to having a well-defined customer base, a standardized customer base, a standardized offer, which I'd call a productized service offer, standardization of all your processes, an inbound marketing engine, a line team, and the final piece is technology. And when you have all these things working in tandem, that's when you can actually create a much more scalable professional services model. So that's why I was saying sometimes there's an overemphasis on technology and automation to solve it all, but really we have to have those other 5 pieces I just mentioned working together for us to really reap the rewards of technology and automation. So definitely not pie in the sky or hokey type stuff whatsoever, all very important parts of a more scalable, streamlined, automated accounting firm.
Yeah, and you know, I did a workshop for CPB Canada here a little while ago, and I will say it wasn't my best workshop. I had tech fails, and I got somewhat distracted, and I didn't have somebody to help me moderate the groups. There was all kinds of things that I didn't see coming, and I'll tell you one of the things I didn't see coming that I should have as well, and that is, I was talking about creating your 5-star client profile, creating your 5-star service offerings. And what I didn't do was offer up in it. It wasn't part of the course curriculum, but if I look back and I thought about it, one of the things you should do is create an offboarding process as well. And I didn't have that in my workshop ready to discuss particularly. I have one, so I could demo it. But if you're going to do some of this and you're going to develop some processes, you may want to consider offboarding as one of them. That's just a little bit of a side. But I want to actually take it back to some of the simple things. And this is more of a mindset thing. And I had told Ryan and Sharam I was going to mention this, and I think they were both looking at me like I had 3 heads. But we have automation in our everyday life where we can have fails as well. So I like to have my coffee maker go off every morning so that when I get up, I'm not waiting for the coffee maker to make my coffee. It is actually making my coffee. And some of you who know me know that I have smart homed my house to the nth degree. So this is part of my smart home routine. But if I don't actually have a system to make sure that the coffee and the filters and the water is in there, then that's automation gone bad. And our systems are the same. There is no point automating something if you haven't done the front end work on it. So I know that sounds like a super simple one, but yeah, so I want to do a quick poll. Who here has their coffee maker go on first thing in the morning so you can wake up to fresh coffee? Put your hands up. No? Not that many of you?
I'd say I'm not a coffee drinker, Kelly, but if I was, maybe I would be putting my hand up.
Yeah, okay. So I just wanted to, because I think that kind of, you know, brings it back for a lot of people. Even the most simple automation is going to be a fail if you haven't done the upfront work on creating a system around it. So, and I want to get back to, can I share my screen, Sharam? Do I have control to do that? Because I want to show how you can have some simple automation that doesn't involve complicated technology, that does not have, yep, I was, that doesn't have complicated technology, This is automation that's not going to go wrong, that does not cause all kinds of trouble. Wait, there's our deck. That's how organized we are. But in here, this is automation that can save you time. It's not always about complicated apps. It's about developing a system. And the system that I have in my Chrome browsers, I know a lot of you know that I'm a little bit crazy about my Chrome browsers, but think about what you can automate that isn't too complicated. And in there are your startup pages. And in there, you can use a specific set of pages that open up in the morning. So it's not always about the complicated process. It's about using simple systems that can save you 3 or 4 minutes in the morning. Sorry if that was a bit of a lame demo. Maybe it was a lame demo. But I just want to go back to the fact that you don't need to get super complicated on all of the things that you want to do. And it's the same. So I took a very long time before I picked a practice management app. I had 17 hats for a very long time. That is still my CRM. I'm still using it for contracting. I'm using it for lots of things. But I did not move on, and I know them all. I work with them all. I actually love them all. There is a ton of practice management apps that I love. But when I met Financial Sense, not Shahram, it's Financial Sense I met. When I met Shahram, it checked all of the boxes of what I needed it to do. And all of those boxes weren't always about automation, although I do love that the nagging stuff is going out to my clients and that my clients are having a really good experience on the other end of that. I liked that I could set up very specific systems for myself and then go ahead and automate it. But more than that, you need to test those systems on yourself. So if you are setting up a new process and you want to go beyond just having a system set up, you need to test the daylights out of it on yourself or on your husband's business. But don't just go ahead, set up these systems and say, hey, I'm going to let this loose on my clients. Feel like what it's going to be the client on the other end as well.
So Kelly, you said that some automation, there's to think about things in terms of simple automations or easy wins. What are like a few easy wins that you could maybe recommend for most accounting and bookkeeping firms that maybe they aren't leveraging? Is there anything, I don't want to put you on the spot here, but is there anything that you see as a repeating theme, which are some easy wins? Yes.
And if you've read anything of mine or you've heard me before, it's a scheduler. You'd have to work pretty hard to have an automation fail. Once you have the system set up, I'm going to say it over and over and over again. You need to link your calendars properly. You need to know how to block your time. But if there is any better automation than an online scheduler, other than Financial Sense and the client tasks, I don't know what it could be. If you don't do anything else, set your online scheduler up, integrate your Zoom meeting link or your Hangouts or whatever link it is, get that in there and set up a few questions, because you can have forms in there so that when the meeting starts or when they book a meeting, you know what that meeting is all about. It is magic. I have zero idea about going in and booking meetings or doing any of that. It all is magical. And then, but you have to, so that's the automation part. And I'm going to come back in a second. I know I'm taking over again. That's the automation part. You need a way of disseminating that information though. And so sometimes this comes back to a simple system. I have a spreadsheet of all of the links that I need right away. Because although people can go on to my website and they can book with me, I have all kinds of other options. So you need a way to disseminate the information properly. How about this when people ask you for things and you don't know what they are? Having a spreadsheet of all of these different kinds of things then makes the automation part easier. So I need to disseminate the information, but then I need all of that to happen in the background. So the short version, Ryan, is an online scheduler that magically reminds the client and does everything else. What's yours?
Could I choose the same one as you?
No. Yes, you can totally.
Now you're putting me on the spot here, and I didn't really think that one through. I asked the question, but I didn't think it through. Easy win automation. Easy win automation. How about I think about that and we circle back?
Okay.
Shahram, what do you think? I'm going to get back to everybody on that.
Yeah, so there's something we're working on right now, right? Because I love automation. I think it's a really great thing to do, but I completely agree that if you don't really standardize your process or do it manually first, you really don't know what to automate. And then if you try to automate it, you just end up automating the wrong things, and it can create more trouble than good. So one thing we're working on right now is, and it's different because I'm not actually a bookkeeper or accountant, but with our system, so like support, some things we really like the idea of doing so we can, get back to customers faster and they don't have to wait on our team to respond to questions, is we can trigger keywords when people ask us questions, and it'll automatically recognize this keyword is recognized to this support document and send it to them within seconds. And if it doesn't work and it doesn't solve the problem, then we can come back, 10, 15, 30 minutes later and answer it. So like little automation like that helps us drive a better customer experience and help people be able to just realize value faster. So little things like that, that's something I'm really excited about because it is definitely something we really want to be able to offer quick and effective support. But there's so many little things. I love the scheduling idea. That's something I don't do because I haven't time blocked my time yet. I can't do the calendar thing because then I'm going to have all these meetings all over my calendar, but I got to be able to time block first. So I have those spots where it does make sense where meetings can pop up out of nowhere and it won't interrupt parts of my day.
Yeah. And I'd say, thinking back on mine, a quick win that I think not only that I loved implementing, that I would recommend to all firms, which is maybe not an automation per se, but perhaps an efficiency gain, which is I just love asynchronous communication. Mm-hmm. I try to eliminate as many meetings as humanly possible, and I communicate via Loom videos. So instead of long email threads or 30-minute meetings, I'm just doing Loom videos. So I'm really just trying to keep my calendar as clear as humanly possible. I know where Shahram's coming from. You just don't want people booking things in your calendar left, right, and center, and it just becomes a free-for-all. There are ways to limit that with some of the scheduling apps.
Yep.
But I really, really guard my calendar quite a bit. So Loom, I do Loom whenever possible, basically. So maybe not an automation, but definitely an efficiency gain.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. You could go back and forth on email forever if you wanted to.
So what do we have next here on the agenda, Kelly?
Yeah, so I wanted to talk about, and I want to come back to the client tasks and financial sense in a minute, but I do want to talk about the ROI on having processes and systems versus automation. And I think one of the ones that is that if you, Dext gives you the, did I say receipt bank? Because I meant Dext. I'm going to Dext here. So Dext is another great collaborative tool with your clients. And you can either publish receipts or you can just cash code in the bank feed, especially I know some of the Americans that's a more regular thing than it is here in Canada. But you can automate for Dext to publish everything for you if you wanted to. And you can set some parameters around auto publishing as well. And I've been using the apps for a long time, and I don't automate anything in Dext because the ROI on it is bad if it goes bad. It's as simple as that. If automation is going to cause you more trouble in the end, should you have a bang up process that goes quickly rather than automating it? So in Receipt Bank, I sort, I filter, I look at everything, I shorten up the range of what's going to publish, and then I batch publish. Because to get that stuff out of QuickBooks is going to take me longer. And also it's a better visual view to check for compliance issues within the app itself before it goes over to QuickBooks, especially if you've integrated other apps and now you've got automation running amok down the chain. So if you are sending things over automatically and then they're going into QuickBooks and then they're going into Pluto or Veeam or one of these other things, that's automation run amok. Versus, and once you get a bang up system for it, you can publish hundreds of receipts out of Receipt Bank in single clicks, so that you can get them over there once you've sorted, you've looked at them, you've moved out of the way the things you don't need by filtering them, versus automating that process. But coming back to automation ROI, there's nothing like an online scheduler for automation gone well. So, you know, you really need to run what that looks like. But when I talk about Dext and not automatically publishing it, you have to, in order to make it efficient, you still have to take the time up front to filter, to sort, to understand the technology. And I think that this is another thing where people really fall down on automation and systemizing. As soon as something goes wrong, we love to blame other people. And the problem with that is it's a picnic. Sometimes it's a problem in the chair, not in the computer. So before you hit the ground running on some of this, have you learned the product well enough? I'm hoping that you know it's a good fit in the beginning because you've defined your outcomes, you've defined what you want your business to look like, and therefore you've chosen the right software to meet those needs. But then what I find is people don't take the time to learn the product well enough. And I know one of my sayings is stop overthinking. So I don't want you to overthink the software too much in terms of, you know, getting some stuff done. Sometimes you need to dive into the software, solve a couple of problems really quick. Like I said, I've got someone that I'm doing a migration for. I built a migration workflow right away in Financial Sense for it to get that client to upload magically. That's where automation is beautiful. They're bringing it in, they're checking off the list. That's automation gone well. But if you don't take the time to learn the nuances as you go along with a product, and then all of a sudden you blame the app for the automation failure, then you've got trouble there as well. Did I just go off on a tangent?
Yeah, but we're used to that, Kelly, so it's not a problem. So how do people learn the software very well? What are your top, because it's constantly, it never ends, right? So how do you educate yourself on all this stuff? What recommendations do you have?
Well, you hire Kelly.
Yeah, that's a no-brainer.
You know what I find that people don't do? They don't take the time to watch the videos or read the explainer information. I am constantly amazed at, now there's different learning styles. So there's definitely different learning styles. I have people that come to me for stuff that exists in some of the software, but they are way more comfortable doing a hands-on learning experience with a human being. But a lot of people just don't even take the time at all to take a look at what the resources are that the product itself is offering. So I think the first step should be to go through what is the product itself offering me to learn how to use it properly. And then what have they set up for a community as well. So Sharam's got the Financial Sense Users Group, where you're seeing people go back in and ask each other questions in there, or you know, harass Sharam for feature requests. Not that I do that. So I think learning as a community is important, using the resources. And then if you are the type of person that really needs one-on-one, for crying out loud, pay for it. It doesn't need to come from me. I'm just saying, do you want to struggle forever if you are a person that needs more direct training and never learn to love it and never get there? So that would be my advice, those 3 levels. You, Ryan, what would you suggest?
So I agree with all that. I agree with community. It's easier than ever now to be part of online communities of like-minded professionals.
Yep.
So we both have Facebook groups, but actually, Kelly, I always recommend your Facebook group over mine because you're way more active. You're way more active.
It's a busy group.
You put a lot of work into it. I have more of I do have a Facebook group, but I also have Future Firm Accelerate, which is my online coaching program, which has a forum style community. So a little bit different than a Facebook group. So I'm way more active in there, but definitely online community is huge. And actually I have a podcast episode on that. My favorite 6 accounting communities that modern accountants can learn from. And I think I mentioned your community in that one.
Thank you.
So yeah, online community is big. Definitely, you know, when I started my firm, I loved implementing technology. I loved implementing different workflows. I loved actually going through all the help videos and materials that different apps had and learning about the apps and trying to tinker with it. So someone needs to do that. Not everybody likes doing that. Not everyone has the time to do that. What I ended up doing, I think my 4th or 5th hire was I hired a software engineer that acted as the tech lead for the firm. And you're seeing a lot of modern firms implement, not implement, but bring on these kind of resources. Doesn't necessarily need to be a software engineer, but someone that could just stay up to date with the technology, implement the technology, shop around for technology, learn the new features, train the team on the new features. Like if you want to be cutting edge, you need someone that's going to be constantly up to date and training everyone on the team on how to use the apps and implementing different automations in the firm. So that's what I ended up doing. I actually kind of offloaded some of the stuff that I love doing most, but just not necessarily where I was bringing value to the business. So I think a tech lead, a technology lead is something that a lot of firms should consider as they get to a certain size. So that's the one thing that I would maybe add to the list.
That's interesting. You say that because I have noticed with a lot of the firms we talk to, sometimes it is someone like that. Like they were specifically brought in the firm to manage all the different apps of the technologies they use, stay up to date. And it's something we've been thinking about because we're always trying to figure out a way how to better educate people on what our app can do or the new features of the app, especially when we release a lot of features as fast as we do. There's a lot of people people have been asking, what are the new features? Like, is there a way we can get more visibility into that? And just even the features that have already been there that people may not know exist, it can solve other problems for them. So and a lot of software companies spend a lot of time on this is how can we get them there as fast as possible with as little work as possible? Reduce those friction points, right? So with the videos you talked about, not even just creating these short videos that are small bits of information that are quick and easy to digest, but how to get them there. And we've talked about in some ways how can we replace that role of the tech lead these firms hire by maybe every month do a webinar on all the new features and that we've come out with, or the top features or best practices that can kind of keep the firm owner educated and on top of these things that this tech lead would kind of do, or even just the tech lead itself if it's a much bigger firm. Mm-hmm. It is definitely a hard thing to do well.
It's not easy because firm owners are usually spread so thin, right? They have the technology, they have the marketing side of things, they have dealing with clients. So it's just, there's only so much time in the day. But I do see the tech lead or different types of technology oriented roles on a firm as something that's going to be very important. And you look at, all these venture backed accounting startups, accounting firms that are popping up, Pilot with, I don't know, $100 million in funding, now valued at $1.2 billion, which are, they're half accounting team, half developers. So you're seeing a lot of these hybrid type firms pop up where they're not just accounting firms anymore, they're technology companies as well. Now, we don't know exactly what's happening behind the scenes and what sort of automations are exactly happening there, but there's something that's leading to these kinds of crazy valuations. So yeah, that's kind of what I'd say on that point.
Can I come back to, actually, I'm backing up to what one of my other favorite automations is. And it's a series of automations. And so I'm going to share my screen again.
And your mic is slightly, yeah.
Oh,
there we go. We got it.
It got buried.
There you go.
There we go. Okay. So I'm going to share my screen again. And then I'm going to just give me a second. On this training one, we're gonna come back to here. I want to show, so this is a system that was created. I was logged in, just so y'all know. I'm not this disorganized a human being. Well, some of you are going, yes, you are, Kelly. No, I'm not. So it logged me out. Okay, 8, 7. So I have a series of custom reports. So I'm sorry that this is going to be a little bit QuickBooks Dext related. And then I want to talk about client tasks and how to manage those in financial sense as well. So this is a little bit Dext related, but in QuickBooks Online, I have created a series of custom reports. I don't know why that's there. I've created a series of custom reports. And then I grouped the custom reports. I grouped the custom reports so that they fall in the order that I want them to, so then I can then do things super quickly with them. So when I'm in here, I organize them by a number, so they go in the group that I want them to, so that I can export an entire series of reports as one and upload them to the client folder. So I'm not doing them one at a time. This is an efficiency system. But then what I've done, yeah, Kelly, I have auto emailed my clients' reports. So I have a series of standard reports that I already know what they are for the client. Come on. Anybody know why that? There we go. I have a series of reports, and then those reports are on a schedule and they go into the client's Dext accounts. They are automatically emailed to the client's Dext accounts. These are backup reports. These are not guaranteed that the client's file is correct. This is recording a point in time on the client's file. So two things have happened. We've got a backup series so that if anything goes wrong in the file, we know what we're rewinding to. We're sending them into their Dext account so that they have in there a series of reports for all time of what the file looked like, and they have it in an easy to access place. And then Dext is now connected to the client controlled folder. So you can have automatic downloads of everything that goes into Dext, automatically downloads into the folder that, let's say Dropbox or Google Drive, that the client owns. You don't need those reports. They need those reports, because when you win the lottery, you need to make sure that they have their source documents. So everything that goes into Dext is then automatically downloaded to their Dropbox folder. So that now you've got 3 location redundancy of everything. and you are not responsible for one of those locations. To me, that's automation that has very little downside and tremendous upside. I've done nothing, but they have magically got everything backed up in one spot, and it's got their location redundancy. To me, that's killer automation ROI. So you create the system with the reports, you create the system of where they're going to, you create the structure of who does what, and then you automate the whole darn thing. The other thing that becomes super important when you're going to do automation and systemizing is having a naming convention for all of it. So make sure that you have a naming convention. So in those reports, actually, I'm going to share one more second. When you're in those reports, you can see that the naming convention helps systemize that automation. Every one of them is named the same thing so that it's easy to get to those groups. There's less chance that you are going to make a mistake on what you're sending around, and everybody involved knows what those names mean. It's the same thing when you're in financial sense. When you are creating any kind of processes in financial sense, name them properly. So if you have T1 workflows and you've got, I was just talking to somebody about this today, you've got T1s for, you know, guys that are the real estate vertical, T1 real estate. Make sure that the naming convention follows a logical pattern, because that's one of the key things. So that the key thing to a system is knowing what your outcome is. The next key thing is making sure that that system is easily understood by anybody who needs to be a part of it. And naming conventions are one of the key things to having everybody understand and be able to access what's going on in any of your applications. If you don't organize it by a naming convention and it's all over the map then that's not a system you can even hope that people will understand. Okay, lecture over.
Good points, Kelly.
Let me just check my deck. Sorry, guys. This is like, hopefully everybody understands how conversational we wanted to make this today. I've covered off most of the key points that I wanted to. So now we can have some questions, or Ryan or Shahram, if you have something to say and want to shut me up somehow, now's your chance.
Nothing on my mind unless there's people that have some questions, or if Shahram has anything to add, but I'm happy to open it up for questions.
Yeah, I don't have anything to add. So if anyone has any questions, just you can raise your hand with the little reactions icon at the bottom, and I can unmute you and you can chime in and ask a question, or you can even just drop it into the chat too, if that's easier.
Oh, just while we're waiting for questions, Bianca put in there, yay, two-factor authorization. I cannot state that enough. So in your financial sense, you've got a lot of sensitive information for your clients. The chances of something going wrong are higher on your end than they are otherwise. Your system is as vulnerable as the application systems. If you don't have two-factor authorization on there, that's a big swing and a miss to me. Put it on all of your applications. I cannot state that enough.
So it looks like Bianca has a question.
Hi. Yeah, just on that, Kelly, on that 2FA, I put a poll in a recent Facebook community group based on what security measures people do have in place to protect data. And 2FA and the encrypted or complex passwords were the lowest on the list in the poll that people have implemented in their accounting and bookkeeping practice. I was shocked.
Mm-hmm. Me too, Bianca. I do security audits for people, for businesses and for accounting firms. Not that I know all the intricacies of the IT side of it, but even the most simple practices are not being implemented. And you know what? I feel everybody's pain. 1Password and I are not friends. 1Password is awkward. If there's any app that I roll my eyes at on the daily and that gives me trouble, but Sarah loves it, I see. I have not bonded with it. I will probably fully disclose that's my fault because I really like Chrome browser just filling in my passwords for me. But I know it's a necessary evil. I understand the importance, so I've done it anyways. 2-factor authorization. Yeah, I've got my authenticator on my phone. Do I always love it? No. Roll my eyes? Yes. Am I glad that I have it? 100%. 100%. I would feel naked without it. Yeah, I do have the Chrome extension, Sarah. Like I said, it's user error. I saw a question in there and I wanted to talk a little bit about it is automate the client tasks and recurring projects, but they won't send out until I send the manual notice. Do you want to speak to that, Sharam?
Yeah, definitely. So there is a way to do that. And I can go in this more detail with her after the webinar, but if you can actually set it up, if your project recurs every month, have it automatically send out on the 1st or whatever date you choose that every single month. So January 1st, February 1st, March 1st, it'll constantly send out. You won't actually have to manually activate that. So it automates it from start to finish, because if we didn't do that, it's great. It still automates the reminders, but you might forget, oh man, I forgot to send this to the client this month. So there is a way to do that. And I think that's one of the keys is when we built that, we wanted to make sure we wanted to automate the data collection process, which we found was a huge pain point for a lot of accountants from start to finish. And we were talking about this. There's been a lot of really good feedback. Kelly has given us a lot of good feedback, as well as a lot of the users on this. And hope to release a lot of new improvements to that feature, because I believe we released it earlier this year or late or sometime last year. And there's so many improvements you can make with automation and so many different nuances when it comes to client communication that you can improve.
On that note, on the client tasks and automating the client tasks and then getting the clients to do the things that you want them to do. So, and Shram doesn't know that I'm about to bug him. So I am jonesing so hard for that the upload button isn't there, that you get to add the upload button. So I know they're working on that, so I can go ahead and say that. But you need to take some responsibility for teaching your clients to use it. And so make sure that you actually add, you can add descriptions in here. You can add attachments. You can communicate out with them more than just upload bank statements to Dext. And one of the things that I noticed in this is that my clients were uploading their bank statements to Dext, but the outcome is to complete all of the reconciliations for the month in a timely manner. And I found myself going back to them for credit card statements. And what I realized is credit card statements very often have a different statement ending date. So the client goes in, they get my notification to do the bank statement, but the credit card statement may be later. So I needed to make sure that I had separate requests from them. So automation, it's also important that you tell people very clearly what you want them to do and separate the tasks. So I separate, this is my own account. So I separated the tasks of bank statements and credit card statements because they may well forget the credit card statements. So make sure that you're helping them to get done what you need them to do to collaborate effectively with them, and then tell them what it is that you want to do. So be very clear, even in the automated client tasks. And add different due dates. So I just wanted to mention that because I know that happens to a lot of people, is getting all of the statements. Now, if you have a client where they're rolling out on all different kinds of dates, so let's say they've got a TD account and they've got a CIBC and then they got their credits through Capital One, put different dates on that, knowing what they're, because even if you've got 100 clients, hopefully you've got a bookkeeper looking after 20 clients and they know what the statement ending dates are for the clients, and they can build out client tasks that are meaningful to the client. So again, it's not enough to automate, upload bank statements. You need to really dig down into what is the outcome you want to achieve with your client and how much direction do you need to give them, and then go ahead and automate the communications that you're going to send to them. On a fun note, automation can be fun on the other side. I have a client who all he does is he does his expense reports for his company. He's the CTO. So he doesn't need to do any other interaction with me other than get his expense reports in. And on the first Monday of the month in another program, I'm doing it in here now, but at any rate, at the first of the month, he got an automated reminder to get his expense reports done in Dext. He took to racing me to see if he could get it done before he got my automated notification. So sometimes if you've got somebody who's kind of, I don't know, also into technology, you can go down these fun little rabbit holes. So sorry if that was a bit of a lame example, but this guy still races me every month to get his tasks done ahead of time.
You gamified expense reports, Kelly.
Yes, we gamified. No, John gamified expense reports, and it is kind of fun. Okay. I think we're at time. No more questions?
Doesn't look like it. All right, perfect. Well, Kelly, Brian, did you guys have anything else to add before we conclude the webinar? All right.
Go ahead, Kelly.
Thanks. It was great having you all. And we actually recorded this, so we'll be sending this out so you can review it later if you please to. But I didn't have anything else.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. It was nice. I love this format with seeing the faces too.
Thanks for having me, Kelly and Sharam.
Okay. See you later, guys. Have a great rest of your day.
Bye, everyone.